Welcome to They Tried to Bury Us. My name is Tamer Kattan. I'll be your host. I'm a comedian, a writer, and an actor. I was born in Egypt and moved to America when I was just a kid, so I'm very proud of being an immigrant. And ever since I started doing comedy, I've met more and more immigrants, and I have found more and more amazing stories, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I'm going to have a new guest. They're going to sit down and share with us their American origin stories, and we're going to get to know each other better, and we're going to find out that we're all just the same. So tune in each week, tell every single person you know, and thanks for listening. Back to another episode of They Tried to Bury Us. I'm Tamer Kattan, and with me again, finally, is my co-host,
Kity Kattan.
Hi, Mom.
I really miss everyone here.
We missed you too.
Yeah, thank you. But I lost my voice for a while, and this is killing me because I'm very wild, very noisy, and to be quiet like that, oh my God, like some give me anesthesia to be quiet for 2 weeks.
I know, you did the typical
crazy.
You did the typical Middle Eastern mom thing. When you lost your voice, you just weren't calling me so that I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You were just sending me extra texts.
Yeah, because you was in London. I don't want you to be worried about what happened to my mom. Maybe you think somebody tried to kill me or get
Why
my
would
neck.
I assume that? Why would I automatically jump into someone's trying to kill my mom?
Well, any case, I call Paul. Help me out.
Did you know that, Paul, that you've
Yeah.
been recruited as a second bodyguard? I think that this podcast is getting in your head now that you got bodyguards, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, and by the way, speaking of the podcast, special shout out and thank you to Voyage LA for writing a feature about us. Voyage LA is voyagela.com is a really great website, and they cover a lot of artists in the Los Angeles area. So thank you guys so much for the feature on myself, my mom, and the podcast. And thank you, Keith. Thanks for being back. We missed you.
So proud of you. I love what they say about you today. Very proud of you.
Thanks. I'm proud of you too. They said stuff about you too,
Yeah, but I feel I raised a good man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Not everyone would agree with you, but thank you for your support.
Even if you're acting, I love it.
Well, I am extremely excited to have our guest with us today. And I didn't tell you too much about her because she's from one of our favorite food cultures in the world. But you already guessed. Because you chatted with her before we spoke. So
I see her face and her smile. I figure it out.
Did you really? You knew right away?
Boom, yeah.
Okay. So today on the guest, we have a very today on the guest. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, Lynn Maleh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And Lynn is a comedian and a writer. And is there any other hyphens?
Nope, that's all of them.
Well, we met originally. You were friends with another comedian that we both know. And I think you came to her showcase, then we met there.
Yes.
And I'd never seen you perform comedy before. I think LA's such a big scene.
Just crossing paths.
Yeah, we just kept crossing paths. Like London is I just came back from London and I hadn't been there in 3.5 years, maybe, 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And man, as soon as I got back, within a few days, I felt like I was back in the scene. I'd seen almost everybody that I'd ever gigged with. Like in not even 10 days, I saw everybody. And in LA, I mean, I just spoke to Jack at Ha Ha Cafe, and he's like, there's this new material night, and I just heard about it. And he goes, dude, I've been doing it for 6 years. How have you not heard about it? And I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. It's hard.
Huge.
It's such a big comedy community that sometimes you just don't get to see people. And so I was really pleasantly surprised when I got to see your comedy because you're super funny.
Oh, thank you.
And you're super modest about it. You're like, I don't like this set, but I'll send you what I have. And it was freaking great, man. It was really funny. And I'm really excited to have you on because we've teased this. One of our favorite food countries in the world is Syria.
Yeah.
I love Syrian food. It's some of the best in the world.
The best dessert.
And the best
knafe?
dessert too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's my specialty.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Your boyfriend's a lucky guy.
Yes, he is. He's so skinny. I don't know what I did wrong.
That's awesome. So tell me about your story. Let's hear. I know you were born here, but your family immigrated from Syria.
Yeah, so I was born in New Jersey. Both my parents are from Damascus, which is, if you don't know the capital, biggest city. I also recently found out it is the longest running continuous city in the world.
That's
it's
right.
the oldest one.
Yeah.
And I've been there, so that's pretty cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I went when I was 10 before all the war. It was so peaceful.
Yeah.
Back then it was like the peaceful part of the Middle East, which is such a shame. But they moved here. They moved here first to have my brother because my dad got a job. I guess we need to rewind a little. So my parents left from Syria to Paris. My dad was going to get a PhD at the Sorbonne.
Oh, wow. Amazing school.
Yeah. Education was very important to my dad's family, and it was still very important the way he raised us. My brother has a PhD. I have a graduate degree. And then everyone in my dad's family pretty much has a doctorate.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He always said, never spare money on education or health. That's my dad's MO.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. Very Middle Eastern, right?
Yeah.
I'll add whiskey to that. I'll add a third.
Typical.
Bad whiskey is not worth it.
So when right before he was going to go, he met my mom. They were basically kind of set up, not like arranged, but they brought her over to his house, to meet.
Like, what do you think?
Yeah,
like
maybe.
parent Tinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people think like arranged is such a heavy word with so much baggage, but there's actually a show on Netflix called Arranged, and it shows like there's so many different levels of casualness to it. Like there's the arranged that we all picture, which is like, oh, you marry this person, you don't even see them till the day you're married. You're forced to. And the great thing about this show is it actually showed that like in a lot of different cultures, there's lots of different degrees of that, and you can meet someone and your parents are like, hey, we think this is a good person for you based on all the things that we know about you. And they get to make a decision at the end. So it sounds like it was like that for your folks. Yeah,
they also say the number one way to meet someone compatible for you, just in general, is through an introduction from a person you know. Yeah. So it kind of works.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah. My parent, one time when I was in college, my mom called me up. I was like 18 years old, about to go out to the, frat parties in Alston, because I was in Boston. And my mom calls me and she was like a friend's son came over. He saw your picture on the wall. Like, do you want to get married? He's a doctor. And I was like, no, Mom, that's ridiculous. And now I could be married to a doctor. So I messed that one up wherever he is.
My mom won't admit it, but she's had a couple of those phone calls.
Oh, really? You've made those?
I'm glad you did it.
I'm sure he was very nice.
Yeah, you can. You never know. But it's not time for you to do
it. It wasn't my time.
Yeah.
That's
you
true.
have to do it in your own turn. You have to experience life a little bit. You fool around a little bit in a good way. And you make your...
I've never heard you say that phrase. I love it. You fool around a little bit in a good way.
Yeah, it's experience.
I like that.
Yeah. Experience. You never have this experience if you're married. So you have to have that. You feel sorry all your life because you never have a chance to do that.
You're like a Middle Eastern Dr. Ruth.
No, I'm not
Dr.
Ruth.
Cool, Mom.
I'm Kity.
You are Kity. Yeah. Look, yes. Can I have a high five?
She is branded. That's awesome.
And she says she's quiet. I don't think so. She's quiet.
I think she was kidding.
She's wild.
I like that.
In a good way.
So who in your family was the wild one between your mom and your dad, or was there anybody?
Oh, I would say my dad's the wild card. My mom's pretty stable. That's why my dad was like the one who's like, I'm going to Paris. He knew he wanted to get out of Syria. He didn't like the government there. I don't know how much I can say without the whole world coming after me, but he didn't love the government there. He really didn't want to be in the army. He was a very gentle human being. Yeah. He was mostly raised by his sisters. He was the only boy at an all-girls school growing up. Yeah, because his sisters had to take him to school. So they were like, well, you go to all-girls school now.
Oh, my God. What a genius.
How many girls' sister he has?
He had 2 brothers and then, I want to say, 3 sisters or 4 sisters. Yeah.
4 sisters.
Wow. It's like the Syrian Brady Bunch.
Yeah. My mom's from a family of 7 too.
Yeah.
Both really big families.
It used to be this before my generation.
Okay. Yeah. Now I have like 3 million cousins because of it.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Don't you love it?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. They're all over the world too.
Good.
So when your mom meets this guy who's kind of like this this madman, this adventure, raised in it. That doesn't sound like the typical dude that she would expect to meet.
No, and before that, she was about to marry another man, and they had like a lot of similar interests because my mom was an athlete. This is a fun fact. My mom set the women's high jumping record in Syria.
Wow, that's
she's
amazing.
Really cool. Yeah, so she was athletic. This guy was athletic, but I guess he was like a little verbally, I don't want to say like abusive, but he just wasn't a nice guy.
Yeah.
And she knew in her heart that that wasn't the thing. And then there comes my dad along, who's not at all an athlete by any means, but was just a nice person. And I think that really stood out to her.
Yeah, see? There you go. Nice guys not finishing last.
Exactly.
Right on.
Yeah.
Nice
I like
guy,
that.
40-year marriage.
Right on.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
way it should
Yeah.
be. Take a note,
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's good because now my type of man has always been men who treat me like a princess because that's how I was.
Yeah.
You're
raised.
I think so many dads take that for granted. It's like how you treat your kid is how they grow up needing to be treated almost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's almost not even a choice. It's our programming.
Yeah.
To where the way people treat you is how, especially in your early ages, is how you're going to want to be treated.
Yeah.
So that's great. What a gift he gave you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad had this adventure spirit, always wanted to go. My mom was more family oriented, kind of wanted to stay, but she went to a French Catholic school, so she already spoke French fluently.
Yeah.
And of course, she always had that dream that we all have of, carrying a little backpack around Paris with your like little baguette. So said okay, went with him. She had to write, I think, the bulk of his theses because her French was so much better than his. My mom has always been the genius behind the man.
Wow.
100%.
That's so cool. So she was the jock and the genius.
Yeah, she's an incredible woman.
Wow.
I'm sorry to say, I'm not sorry, but the Middle East women, they have silent power.
Exactly.
Silent power.
Yeah.
They control everything without any bad word or controlling or anything in a very kind way.
Yeah.
It's true. What's that old saying that the man may be the head of the family, but the woman is the neck?
Yes, like a Greek
She can
movie.
turn his head.
I love
anyway.
that.
Isn't that cool? I like that saying too.
Yeah.
I definitely witnessed that at my house.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now your mom leaves Syria. Was it weird for her to go, oh my God, I'm leaving? Did she expect, like, I'm going to marry this guy and I'm going to move to another country?
Well, she did because when he met her, he was like, I'm going to Paris. Come with me. And of course, it's Syria, so you can't just do that. They had to get married.
Yeah.
So they got married in a few weeks. And the story is that my dad went to my mom's father and asked for his blessing. And my grandfather said to him, picking a wife isn't like picking a sandwich. But there you go.
that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So then they're off to Paris. They have great stories about like they lived on top of a bakery and they would get the baguette and then get in the elevator. And by the time they got to the top, there would be no baguette
Finish
left.
it, yeah. Fresh and warm and very nice.
That's so cool. Like, that's such a Parisian experience to live above a bakery.
I know.
Yeah, you smell it all day.
I know. I can only
That's
imagine.
so cool.
Yeah, and then they, after that, I know my dad, he's an engineer, so he was always working job to job. And it never, like, I know when I look for jobs, I look in LA, so I don't know why he was just anywhere at all is okay for a job. So they went to Germany, and then his work took him to Oman. And then he left his job in Oman because he got offered something in America. Went to America, that's when they had my brother. In America, the job fell through. But he had already left his job in Oman.
Oh, my God.
And they had this child and no income.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, you leave one country to go to another with your new wife and new baby, and then he gets here and the job's gone.
And English is still kind of,
But you know what?
Wow.
I believe kids, they bring good luck for the family.
Yes.
This is one of her trick statements for me, by the way.
No, I didn't mention your name. She said you're right. Really, kids bring the blessing on the family.
Well, the funny thing is that was kind of their like darkest moment, bottom of the barrel. And then they went back to Oman, and then they had my brother here, went back to Oman, and then they were pregnant with me. And they were like, if we had him in America, we have to have her in America. They can't have So they flew, my mom was 7 months pregnant, which was not okay at the time, but I guess I was small. And they had me here, and my mom says that I was the good luck. My brother brought the bad luck. I brought the good luck. And then she was offered a job at the UN, like, I think that day, like she had me, and then she got this job at the United Nations where she continued to work for 30 years.
Wow.
Built her way up. When she started working there, she was not getting paid as much as she was paying for train fare.
Oh, my God.
And then when she left, she was like a director of finance.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she really built her way up.
It's such an amazing building,
Work
too.
hard.
I've walked past that building in New York, and it's just been like, wow, that's the UN.
I don't think she worked in that building, but
okay.
I've been to that building.
That's so cool, though. It's so bittersweet, you know? Like, here she gets this job, but then her transportation to and from the job was more money than the actual job, but she still stuck it out.
Yeah, she did. She knew. She saw the growth potential and worked there literally for 30 years. And especially my dad's jobs were they would end and there would be a new one and there would be long periods of time where he wasn't working, and hers was just the stable salary.
Yeah. So what was that like for you guys growing up? Did you guys experience the lack of stability?
It was hard when my dad wasn't working. You know, a man needs to work. Yeah. It's hard for them when they're not. But from my memory, they were just always working. We were mostly raised at after school programs and, with like babysitters, and we would be at a morning program, then a school and a night program all summer. We were at camps, and it sounds like they weren't present, but I think being so deep in socialization made me a better communicator, and I think that's why I don't have social anxiety like I feel other kids do. Yeah, or people now, I guess.
I can relate to that. Yeah, because like my parents both had to work 2 jobs each, and I spent a lot of time home alone, or hanging out with the TV set. But it made me really comfortable to speak to strangers and to communicate with people. Exactly. And especially when my parents had a thicker accent and I didn't have one. We'd go into the stores and my mom would be like, ask this lady this, ask that man that. Remember that?
I've done that.
So I learned really quickly. But what about your neighborhood? What was your neighborhood like? Were you guys unique?
Yeah, so we grew up in New Jersey, which is an interesting state because it has really a little of everything. And there is an area that's full of Middle Eastern people. And I think I could have been so normal and happy there. It's Patterson. That's where we go to get our falafel and our pita bread. But for some reason, we ended up in this super waspy town called Summit. And it's a commuting town from New York. There's like a 30-minute direct train. So they were working in New York. That made sense. It was too expensive for them to live in like Brooklyn or Queens. And they wanted, like a house and a yard one day for us. So that was very problematic, I think, growing up there, because it was a weird town, too. The way I always describe it is there were people in the school whose parents were the housekeepers for other kids in the school's like parents. There was like the richest people in the whole world. Their houses looked like the White House. And then there was actual like low income housing. So it had a really horrible status issue. Really? And it was very like white.
How do you mean by status issue? What do you mean?
It was just, there was, the wealth and that bred like popularity. And then there was some diversity, but it definitely, maybe it was self-imposed and maybe no one ever thought about it and it was all in my head, but I just always felt like an other. And I didn't let people come to my house. I didn't want them to, smell our food. I didn't want them to hear my parents' accents. And there was always this thing that people did, and I'm sure you hate this too, where they're like, your parents are so cute. Their accents are so cute. And it's like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah. It drove me crazy.
I still have people tell me that I work in a golf course. No, they say, we like your accent. And I said, I love it. I never lose it. I love it. So they shut up right away. Yeah. Because sometimes I hint like, you have accent, but So what? I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
cannot lose
Yeah.
it.
It's
So
beautiful.
You know what, though, when you're a kid, there's a really interesting thing when you're a kid where you just want to fit in.
yeah.
You know, and I remember when I was in college, I had like some friends who changed their names from Arabic names to American names. And I remember being kind of judgmental. And I was like, oh, I can't believe they did that. Why would they do that? And it's like, of course I know why they did it. It's hard. It's hard to always feel like an outsider. Like it stinks. You just want to fit in with everybody. And so even though I love your accent now, even though I love my name being unusual now, I didn't like it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't like that I could never find a license plate on the back of my bike that said Tamer.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember there was a TV show, a kid show, and at the end of the kid show, they used to have this woman who held up this thing called a magic mirror. And she would hold this mirror and it was as if she could see you. Mm-hmm. And she would hold up this magic mirror and she would say really common names like, hi, Joe and Billy and Susie and Sean. And I sat there like an idiot every episode going, say Tamer, say Tamer. And she never did.
So sweet.
never.
Or like even today, and it's funny, like I forgot about all that stuff, but when Coca-Cola came out with those cans and they had like the first names on it, it's never Tamer. It's never like names like ours, you know? So I absolutely understand people, changing their names or wanting to fit in, and also to being I hate to use the word embarrassed, but it is, you get a little embarrassed that your parents are just different, no matter what kind of different.
Right. Yeah. It's true. Nothing wrong with
and
that.
you were in a place that was like, it must have been so unusual to live in a town that was predominantly white and know that there was this other community that was predominantly just like you.
Yeah, we didn't, I mean, I never really thought about, I was so anti being Middle Eastern for some reason. I refused to learn Arabic.
Yeah.
My mom always said I'd regret it. I regret it so much. Every single day I regret it. I used to like wear so much sunscreen and I would stay out of the sun. I wanted to be pale. I wanted to be blonde. I wanted to have straight hair. I was fortunate though. My parents, they named me Lynn and they named my brother Ray because they had no idea where they were going to live. They were like, it might be France, it might be.
Yeah.
So they said those were generic names across every
Super
single.
smart.
Yeah.
That's really, it's really smart of them to think that way. It's like plan ahead with names like that.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember when I tried to straighten my hair?
Yeah.
We have this photograph of me
Because
like
he has a curly
I
hair.
had really
you
curly
do?
hair. Now I'm bald.
Cute.
And now I'd kill to have that hair back, right?
Yeah.
But I had really curly
Like
hair.
my brother.
Is your brother like
Yeah,
that?
big curly hair.
So-
No, he's bald too.
Oh, he's okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you know, bald. Is he beautiful? Does he have a good head?
Yeah, he's very built,
Attaboy.
very smart.
Attaboy. Good.
Yeah.
So I remember having this really curly hair and going, I just want to have straight hair. I just want to look white. And my mom and I was really so upset by it that my mom noticed. And she goes, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, I just want to see what my hair would look like straight. So then my mom put hair curlers in my hair.
I straightened it for him.
To say, well, you didn't
Not
straighten it for me.
straighten.
All you did was put the
Roll
hair
it.
curlers in.
Roll it
She
for
put
him.
hair curlers in.
yeah.
And I have photos of this, by the way.
Yeah.
God.
And then she went to work. And then my dad went to work. And she said, before you go to school, take the hair curlers out and your hair will be straight. And boy, was it. I mean, I looked like a little Egyptian Don King. It was, I knew I was screwed when I got to school and my teacher started laughing. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm so effed.
He don't brush it.
You didn't tell me to brush it. You just put hair curls in my hair and left me. I looked like I was electrocuted.
Common sense, Tamer.
Common sense. I was 9. What do you?
He's a boy. They don't have that.
I agree.
Touche.
I'm so sorry.
But I knew it. Do you remember Mr. Kahan?
Oh, yeah.
I walked in the class and I saw him first because I was embarrassed. I got to school a little
That's
early.
the English teacher.
He's an English teacher. I walked and I opened the door and I looked in and and the class was empty because I got there early. And I walked in and I looked at him and he just looked at me and started laughing. And I'm like, oh no. I had a very rough day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I was cool with having curly hair after that.
But thank God he has a picture for that. So
I have a very cool picture.
good.
Yeah, where I look like Big Worm from Friday.
blame it on me.
My mom used to straighten my hair with the clothes iron. Like we would drape my
really?
hair
No.
over the ironing
No.
board and she would straighten it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank
Times
God
were
she-
different.
Yeah.
She also once she never let me shave my legs. I don't know if that's a Middle Eastern thing.
Middle East, not shave it. You have to do it with wax.
Wax. So she made sugar wax.
Oh,
yeah. My mom would do that.
Until today, I cannot live without it.
No.
Yes,
it was
yes,
the
yes.
most painful thing. I was screaming.
No, first time. And after, I think he's strong women.
Well, can
Never
we
went
can we
back.
just let everybody know that you have a ridiculous pain tolerance for everything?
I do too, though. That might be us.
Yeah. I mean, first one you do it, boom. And second one, that's it.
If my mom says
so much.
something doesn't
Yeah.
hurt, it absolutely does.
yeah,
I'm the same way.
It wasn't that long ago that she's a big jogger. And a while ago, she was jogging in Huntington Beach and fell and broke her arm.
1 year ago.
A year
my
ago.
God.
Yeah.
She broke her arm and then decided to walk home with a broken arm.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's
Didn't
us.
didn't
My
call
mom's the
anybody.
same.
I didn't want to bother you.
Yeah.
So
No, with the guy asked me, can I call the emergency for you? It was 5:30 in the morning. I said, no, I can go home. I walked home with my hand and I need to go to emergency. I take a shower and then I drive my car. And
Took
I
a
said, my
shower.
goodness, how I turn with one hand. So I put my car in emergency and with just to turn in case people behind me.
oh, you put the hazard lights on.
Yeah, emergency light.
Yeah.
And then I did it very good. So I said, and I walk to emergency, I broke my arm. Which
This is what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have thick
Yeah.
skins, strong bones.
That's true.
Yeah.
I remember I inherited from my mom's side, thankfully.
Which is good.
Remember that one time I broke my arm? I walked into the house and
Yeah.
you guys were in the living room. I walked right past you and walked to my bedroom.
Yeah.
And then she walks in and she's like, what's wrong? And I go, nothing. And she
Yeah.
goes, oh my God.
You break your arm.
I broke my
You
arm.
break it 3 pieces.
Yeah, I broke my arm in 3 pieces. It was bad.
Oh.
Yeah,
And then
you
she
can
goes,
see it.
we have to go to the hospital. And I go, okay, let's go. She goes, but you got to take a shower.
Everyone's showering before
And she
the
was like trying to
hospital.
put a shirt on me because I was shirtless. I was a really wild kid.
He was a skateboard
I
and
was skateboarding
sweating.
a lot, yeah.
How you take him to the doctor like that? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she put on a shirt and I had to go
It
through
was
the pain.
painful break arm because they have to put his finger through.
They put my fingers in clips this way,
Yeah.
and then put weight on my bicep.
No.
So it looks like I'm making a left turn on a bicycle, and then they put weight sandbags on my bicep and to pull the bones down to get back in place.
it was
really
very bad,
painful.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want my most grotesque one?
Uh-huh.
I've got one. Okay, one time I worked out so hard, I'm kind of a workout fiend, that I tore the muscles in my stomach. And I worked out the next day. I didn't
What?
even know. And then I had to be hospitalized. It was such a weird,
How
random.
did you tear the muscles?
You
in
know
your
what?
stomach?
It's such a long story that I'm not going to weigh you down with it. But also, to tie this back to the beginning, that was 5 years ago. I still haven't told my parents because I didn't want to worry them.
Wow.
Wow, you
Yeah.
strong women. Yes.
Yeah.
I think
But that's what we do. My parents will call me.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
Keep
thank you.
going. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like crybaby.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
It was more that I was worried about how much the bill would cost, but
Yeah.
I'll say strong woman.
yeah.
that's hilarious.
You know, I prefer to take care 10 women, they sick, than just one man.
Absolutely.
One man, they cannot take.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tamer.
Sorry.
They
No,
cannot
you don't have
take
to
the
say
pain.
sorry. It's
Sorry,
okay.
Paul. They cannot take the pain well. You know.
Yeah,
so-
I mean, you guys are
yeah.
designed to
That's
be better
why
taking
women
pain.
get pregnant.
That's why
you
women
know?
can have babies.
Oh,
and
for sure.
Yeah. Finish your story.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's the whole. I mean, it could go on. We could do that for a whole episode.
So, what do you think was the? Do you think the toughest period for your folks was when you guys were in Jersey, or like when it was you? Because they went France and Germany and then Oman and then got to America. What do you think was the toughest period for them as parents?
I think raising 2 children while they were working full time, and they were both going to New York, commuting anywhere from 1 to 2 hours each way. And then my mom cooked all our food, which like I cook my food now and it's annoying, but she was cooking for 4.
Yeah.
And I just, the thought, like I was saying before, it's like if I have 2 things in a day, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
And I work from home and I have this great, comfortable lifestyle and I always feel stressed. And then my mom was working at the UN. My dad was an engineer and then they were raising 2 kids. And for a while it was really cramped because we spent the first 7 years of my life, 12 years with my brothers in a 1-bedroom apartment and their bed was in the living room. me and my brother shared a room. The most defining characteristic of that apartment for me was there was a train track running through the backyard, and we lost so many balls to that train track over the years. And it was kind of in the like East Summit, which is hilarious because East Summit, it's like maybe the worst side of Summit, but Summit's still so fancy.
That's so funny.
But then I think when they got a house, they started to get a little more financially stable, and now they seem a lot better.
Do you think they'd say it was harder to have a life in America? And did they have to work more in America than they did in those other countries to give you guys just basic necessities?
I think so. I think if they stayed in Syria, there's a good chance we would be living with their parents and family because a lot of them stay in the same home.
Yeah.
I have cousins who they live in New Jersey too, a few towns over, and it's my mom's sister. So it's my mom's sister and her husband, and then her 3 children are all in their 30s and 40s, and they all still live in the house.
Wow.
One of them's married and still lives in the house.
And they still live in the house. Wow.
I'm married. And my husband, he can, live alone because he come from rich family. But we lived with his mom, and I lived with his mom. No. 5 years.
No.
She was the best mother.
She was? Oh, good.
She was special.
Mother.
Good.
Yeah, I lived in her home 5 years, and I look back now. I'm 71 years, and I will say that's my best 5 years in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, she was loving, very good. And that's the way they live in Egypt. Yeah. They live with the mom. They're responsible for mom or dad, and all that. Yeah. So depends. Sometimes my mother-in-law terrible too. I know some horrible.
Oh, I wouldn't live 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh no, horrible. I know some people. Yeah. So.
What about for you and your brother? Like, was it hard feeling? Did you even, I know you guys were making efforts to fit in, but were there points where was it hard to fit in? Like, did people accept you as like,
my brother definitely had it harder, and I don't know if he ever cared to fit in. He's like a mathematical genius.
Oh, wow.
He perfect score on the SATs. One day they had senior day and they all went to Six Flags, and he stayed at school and discovered calculus. He has published works about math. He's brilliant. He works at Facebook. But because of that, he's a little bit not socially inclined, so he definitely didn't fit in, but I don't think he cared per se, because he was so self-interested. He had a really hard time, I think, maybe more in middle school, but then in high school, I think he was just so focused on.
Yeah, he's so lucky to have that, to find a passion so early in life. And then it's really funny because once you find your passion, almost feeling like an outsider can be a strength.
Yeah, I don't know if it was for him. I think the women thing was a little tough.
Sure.
But also again, he was so focused on math. I don't know how much effort he was really putting out there. Yeah. But he has a wife now and a kid, and he's very happy. He lives in San Jose.
Good for you, Ray.
Yeah, he did well. He did really well for himself. But then I cared more, I guess. I don't know. I'm a stand-up comic. Of course, I'm obsessed with approval from others. So that, I think it took a bigger toll on me. We didn't have the right clothes to wear. It was at that school, it was the car your parents had. And I was never asked to a school dance, and nobody's seeing this. And I want to make it very clear that I am very cute.
Oh, you are.
And I cannot believe that is possible.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Why do you think no one asked you to dance?
I don't know. It makes no sense.
It's funny because there were moments where I felt like everybody knew something, but they weren't telling me. Yeah. And then there were moments where it would pop out. I'll never forget this. It was in junior high school. There was a girl named Michelle Bell, and I'll remember her because her name rhymed, 1, and 2, she's from New Hampshire. And I thought that was weird because Bartles and James was a wine cooler that was out at the time. I think they were from, I don't know what New Hampshire was, but for some reason, I remember this vividly. And she came and she became my girlfriend. But it was, it was junior high school girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she said this thing I'll never forget. She goes, a lot of my friends think you're weird looking.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And she goes, they think you're weird looking and they think you dress stupid. She's like, but I don't care because I think you're funny. And I didn't know whether I should say thank you or fuck you.
Honestly, that's anything. Like, if you're a girl and you're funny at that age, like, I think that was part of the problem too, was that I was funny and snide and good at school and passionate about things. And I don't think that was a very attractive trait.
They wanted you to be a vice president. The guys. I think a lot of times guys want a woman to be like a vice president, like just support me, but I'm the one in the lead.
Yeah. I don't think anyone who was in relationships in high school was having anything valuable or fulfilling, and I think it stunted them. So looking back, lucky me.
Yeah, for
also,
sure.
I didn't like many of those dudes either, but then I went to liberal arts college and everything was perfect.
Really? Why do you say that? What was the change?
I remember one of like the first interactions I had with a guy at college was they were like, the college I went to was very white, so I think it was extra noticeable that I was something different. And he was like, where are you from? And I was like, New Jersey. And he was like, no, like your background, which no one ever asked. And I was like, Syrian. And his first response was, that's hot. And I was like, what? What?
That's so
I mean, that's not good, though. That's also exoticism.
Sure.
But to hear that, it was like suddenly like, oh, it's an asset? Like,
yeah. Or something, to see something positive. Like, I remember the first time I went to London, I was in the tube and there was a billboard for Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt. And I was like, people go to Egypt?
Of course.
Like, who aren't like Egyptologists? Like, white people are visiting Egypt and they're not coming back and telling stories about somebody tried to buy my sister, for a donkey. Like, it was more like they went, they enjoyed it. They looked at Egypt as a vacation destination, and it made me so proud.
Yeah.
But it also made me go, my God, how invisible are we in America outside of just being a scary place? And so culture, even though you're right, it is, exoticism. Is that the phrase?
Yeah, I mean, that's negative, but also
it's a better kind of negative.
Yeah, I was obsessed with European history growing up, and I feel like that was my own kind of exoticism.
Yeah, I think I was the same way. I think I became a major Anglophile.
Yeah,
and so I ended
was
up
a
in Europe.
Francophile,
Yeah. That's so interesting.
I know.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue. So what about your best time in America? And let's start with your parents. What was the best time for your parents? And then I want to hear what's been the best time for you and your brother.
It's so hard to think what was the best. I feel like my parents have always been just working so hard and all for us, which, leaves me with this quantum guilt. But every time I feel guilty about moving to California, I remember they did the same thing. Like, they get it. They're so cool about it.
Oh, my God. I went through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I lived in Europe a couple times, and my guilt was, I'm an only child, too.
Yeah.
So, my mom never stops me from doing something.
But I cry a lot. I cry a lot.
But when you say quantum guilt, and now you say I cried a lot, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tamer.
Thank you.
It's nice to find people you can relate to about it. But there's always
because
this
you feel alone.
Yeah.
Alone. I mean,
think,
even now, I live in this country 45 years, and I feel alone. I don't have anybody.
What are you talking about?
I mean, we don't
outside
have,
of me, you mean?
No, outside as a big family,
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm wild. I like noises. I like people, crowd, like
too.
that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the way growing up in Egypt is like that. Like, when I was born in Egypt, there was indigenous people that lived in the basement. And they would work as like maids and butlers and like, well, it's the word servant isn't right, but it's close to more like help.
My parents had that.
Yeah. And I remember when I was born, there was a tradition that maybe it was Bedouins or Nubian people did, where when a baby was born in Cairo, they would put him in this bedpan and they invite all the neighborhood kids, and not a bedpan, like a pan, not a bedpan. And they gave all the neighborhood kids like noisemakers, like on New Year's Eve, but it would make noises of the city.
Yeah.
So it would make like police sirens or cars crashing, and they would like overwhelm the baby with noises of the city.
Yeah.
And then they would hug the baby after and kiss the baby so that the baby would start to associate
With
a
the
noisy
noses.
city with love.
Wow.
And it was like Welcome to Cairo. I don't remember the song, but it was very tribal.
Yes, yeah.
I love that.
Actually, they do it to all babies. It's not just that.
Oh, it wasn't
to
just
all
me?
babies. Yeah.
Oh, I felt
Yeah.
special. Now I don't.
Yeah, and you did it. We did it for you, if you believe it or not. And somebody say, you listen to your mom all the time, not to your father.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
People said that to me all the time.
Yeah. It's fun, you know. But anyway, how you fly out your cage from your family to be comedian?
So I moved out here. I went to college in Boston, which was close enough. That wasn't too worrisome. And then I, as a brown skinned person, hate winter so deeply.
Yeah, me too.
And I could not. I remember the moment. I got off a bus and I fell into a bank of snow.
Oh, God.
And I got up and like my lip was bleeding and I started crying and the tears froze to my face. And I was like, we're done. We're out. So I knew I wanted to go to graduate school. I got into USC. And, you know, telling your parents you got into a good school, they're like, okay, you can go. It's a good school. So I went to USC. And then I always meant to move back to like New York or something, but the weather just kept me here.
It's tough to beat.
Yeah.
It's like a Chihuahua that grew up in Milwaukee, moving to California, going, this is where I was made.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
We're a warm weather breed.
Yeah. So
But they know you're happy.
They do. And they understand the appeal of California. They came here and they were like, this is just like Damascus.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
See, that's the thing my mom used when she didn't tell me that she cried when I was in Europe. But what she would do is say, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Oh, that's what mine say.
Yeah.
The exact same
You're
thing.
happy, I'm happy, until
I'm
after.
happy.
You don't want him to live with guilt. You know, it's not
But you
fair.
want him to come home with guilt.
Yeah,
I cried every day.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, those are polar opposites.
I love your accent, baby. It's so cute.
That was me doing you, but I didn't do
I
it.
know that.
Very cute.
But I'm much cuter with my accent. By the
No,
way.
you are. I wish I could do. It's the one accent I can't do is yours. I can't imitate you at all.
Feels wrong. I don't
does.
like
It
to do
feels
it
wrong.
either.
Yeah.
It feels no.
So now you're in LA. You're a comic.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
This is probably the happiest I've ever been finally being able to talk about this stuff. That's why when I heard about this podcast, I was so excited because I can't always, it's so hard talking about being Syrian on stage because there's a lot of stuff I don't like about Middle Eastern culture, but I don't want to like propel that. I don't want people to be like, yes, that's funny. We agree. We also hate Middle Eastern people.
Yeah.
Because that's wrong. And then a lot of it is just about isolation and loneliness. And I haven't found a way to make it funny. And so it's nice to be able to talk about it in a free flowing way.
Yeah.
But it's just been cool to have people want to hear my story and be interested in me because I'm different, because I've always thought I was, not interesting because I was different.
It's funny. You touched on something that like the loneliness and isolation is, I think a lot of people don't realize that not every immigrant, when you come from a place, do you always feel welcome in that place?
Yeah.
Like I was an in-betweener is the phrase I use. Like I was in between being American and in between being Middle Eastern, but I never felt 100% accepted in either box. And the place in the middle is kind of a lonely place,
It is.
and especially like I remember going through stages where I was like, I'm just going to tell people about my quarter Greek side. And, my English is good enough. I have this curly hair. I can pull off being a European instead of being Egyptian. I mean, I even had Egyptian people saying, I didn't know you were Egyptian. So I hid under that. I remember like having a while, almost a year, where I just didn't want people to know I was Egyptian. And it's nice to come on the other side of that and be like, okay, I'm not the definition that Egyptians have Egyptians, and I'm not the definition of what Americans have of Americans, but I'm my own thing. And it's this thing in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's a thing in itself, even if it's a swirl.
But it's very important also to talk about the culture to let people understand and learn and be aware what we have, because we have very rich culture.
Of course. And we're making new culture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. What you just said is that's what I wanted the podcast to be originally, was I thought, I just want people to hear what it's like for people to be immigrants. That's what the founding fathers were. And that we have more in common with the founding fathers than almost any other kind of American, is the people that were willing to leave everything behind for the pursuit of happiness and for their kids. But what I didn't realize is how good it feels to find other people that feel the way I feel. Like that was like the silver lining of this all, is meeting other people that went, I feel in the middle too. And it's lonely. And it's nice to be able to find other. There's something weird about loneliness, that when somebody else says, I'm lonely too.
I hate it.
It makes you feel like.
But you know what? You open door for younger generation to listen to your time, and they learn and they feel good. I mean, when you talk about your childhood, it's good for other generation after you.
100%.
Yeah, so you
and
open
even our peers. Like when I saw your set, I was really impressed. I thought we were really funny, and it was really great. There is an extra sense of pride when I see a Middle Eastern sister go up there and say things that maybe you wouldn't have been allowed to say if you'd stayed in Syria.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
still don't even know if my parents would like the things I say on stage.
But it's okay. You have to, because that's your position, to be honest and freedom and say it in a funny way. People love it.
Yeah.
It's important. It's healthy.
Yeah. Maybe first if they don't like it, but they accept it after a while.
Yeah.
You do something you love, and people learn a lot through you.
What about your folks? Now that they're here and they've been here and they've built a life, and do they look back and are they happy about the decision they made? Are they happy they came to America?
I always say if there's no other good that came from the war in Syria, it's that my mom finally feels at peace that she made the right choice moving us here. I think I think it was hard for them when both their children left at first, because, children is everything to them. But I think they're finally getting this really cool, second wind. They just went on vacation to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
How wild.
That's cool.
They didn't book a single hotel. They just went to Puerto Rico and figured it out.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That sounds like your dad's influence or your mom's influence?
That's my dad's thing.
That's awesome.
He always he never booked hotels when we were growing up, which was such a nightmare. And when he called me and told me that they were doing that, I was like, you're still doing that? In the age of the internet? Just book a hotel. But, it works for them. And they seem like they're doing activities together. They never did that when we were growing up. They never went to a movie. They never went on a vacation by themselves.
Yeah.
Never had dinner by themselves.
What is that?
What is
you
that?
said that to me too.
Yeah.
My mom said this thing that simultaneously made me happy, but also a little bit bummed. She said that after my dad passed away, I've taken her to more countries. I travel a lot with comedy, and she's always visited me in different countries.
Cool.
And then we've gone to lots of restaurants and stuff. And she goes, there'd be every once in a while, she'd be like, I never did this with your dad.
Yeah. I think because when you're a migrant, you worry about everything. Yeah. Especially the man of the family. In case something happen, he don't have support here. Yeah. So if you think, let's go to night dinner. No, let's do it home. Yeah. It saves some money if we do it outside. You never know for rainy day. Yeah. And sometimes my husband never stingy. He was very generous man. Not generous, but he's okay man. Yeah. But
with her.
But he builds a life at least. Yeah. When he passed away, I don't need anything big from anybody.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm grateful for that, So we always, when you're a migrant, you don't have backbone to lean in it. And that's very dangerous.
Or like a safety net. Safety net. Yeah.
Something to lean. Yeah. Back home.
Backbone here means courage.
Oh, okay. Thank you for correcting my English.
I don't mean to correct, but it's a learning moment.
It's important.
You teach me Arabic all the time. My silly pronunciation.
Yeah,
I once called a wiener a bird. Because in Egyptian Arabic, hamama.
Oh, my God.
Does that mean bird or wiener?
Hamama both way.
It means
hamama
both.
it's bird and hamama something dirty.
Okay, so imagine being a kid and seeing a pretty bird outside, then running into the house and going, I saw a hamama.
Hamama. His penis. Penis.
I bet your mom loved that. She loved to make fun of it.
Normal, He's a man, he has it,
I always got confused too. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. So it's funny. But it's a life. You have back home, if you need money, you call mama or dad.
Yeah, you got a support
Same
system.
thing to you here. You grow up now in case, God forbid, you have mom and dad. But when we came, we don't have anybody. So that's a big difference.
It's true. When you're an American, then we're like in my situation being here, my worst case scenario is I'll have to move home with my mom.
Yeah.
But their worst case scenario was, oh my God, what are we going to do? There's nothing.
Yeah. But Tamer home, his bedroom always there. I never move it or put furniture.
My parents did the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm always like, don't you want an office?
Stairmaster room?
Your kids, Some people, they move everything and they make a different room, but for Middle East, they cannot do that.
Yeah.
Their kids' room, always kids' room.
When I went to my mom's house in Syria, it was still set up for her and her sister.
No way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so cute.
Yeah.
Wow,
Girly,
that is cool.
teal sheets. And,
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That's super cool.
Yeah.
It's a great life, but a great life with family, but to live there, it's not really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it for Tamer, for you.
Yeah.
It's a great future for you guys and more freedom.
And more access to see the world. I mean, I think that's the one thing I love the most about immigrating is seeing more of the world.
Yeah.
And getting to meet different kinds of people and broadening my perspective on what life means and why we're here and challenging ideas and stuff. My world is so much bigger being here. I think that's one of I don't think I've ever articulated it that way before. Is you didn't just give me a better world, you gave me a bigger world.
That's so true. My parents, when I was young, they really prioritized us traveling. They took us to Europe. They took us to Syria. When I went to college, they were like, find the abroad program. You have to go. So I traveled all over Europe. And since then, I've traveled to so many. I've been to India. I've been to Myanmar. I've been to Costa Rica. I've been so many places. And it's because I feel like there's so many people from America that are afraid of the world. But I know, I've been to Syria. I can go anywhere.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
People are people. The world is the world.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, Tamer went to India too.
Yeah, I used to go to India a lot.
It is wild.
It is wild. India is one of the few countries that reminds me of Egypt, actually.
Oh, okay.
Even the architecture in the streets with the the striped sidewalks, like they have in all the Middle Eastern countries, they have in India.
Yeah.
I went to a wedding in Mumbai.
I went to one in Delhi.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Really cool.
Their weddings are so amazing.
They're wild, yeah.
And then I went to Goa to get away from the city and just sat on a beach.
I should have done that.
It was beautiful.
They're wedding for 7 days.
Oh, yeah. The weddings are long.
They're cool.
Yeah. It was the only place I've ever been that was like, wow, this makes the Middle East seem real chill.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild. It's totally crazy.
Yeah. The food's spicier. It's louder.
It's so funny, too, because Indian people here seem so mellow.
Yeah.
But Indian people in India are partiers.
Yeah.
They're out of control. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
I think you've got such a great story.
Cool,
and
thank you.
I would love to meet your parents if they ever come visit.
They don't love sitting on planes, but if they do, I'll bring them by. I know they'll love your mom for sure.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything you want to promote?
I guess I've got some Twitter at Lynn Maleh, spelled Moly, trying to keep it cool for the whites. And I have 2 shows that I run, Wolf Den Comedy in Silver Lake and Dirt Pit Lounge in Glendale.
Cool. Oh, I think that's where your set was that I saw. Was it? Or no, you did Good Heroin.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
It's such a fun show.
Follow this woman's comedy. She's super funny. Super insightful. I'm so glad you've been a guest on the show. Thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah.
Kity, thank you for being back.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you know what? I want to read something. One of the most frustrating things for me on the podcast is that people leave us reviews and then you can't reply. You can't even say thank you.
But at least every time say 1 or 2.
Well, thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. You're very good.
Yeah.
You're a very good marketer.
They're very intuitive, Middle Eastern mothers.
They are, right? It's bananas. So I'm going to read you this one that I just read the other day. Okay, are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay, so we just got a review from a woman named Kelly Lauder, and she wrote, I just found the podcast. I just found this podcast and cried about 10 times in the first episode.
Oh,
By the way, that's your episode, Kate. That was your story.
Oh, I'll have to listen.
Absolutely amazing job by both you and your mom. Can't wait to hear the rest of the episodes and hoping this changes the hearts and minds of the anti-immigration crowd. The hardest working people I've known in my life are immigrants. Keep up the incredible work.
oh,
That's so
thank
nice,
you
right?
so much.
Thanks so much, Kelly. And thank you guys for listening into the podcast. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the incredible messages. There's even been people on Twitter, like, when the massacre happened in New Zealand, where over Twitter, they're like, hey, just want to, how are you? I hope you and your family are okay. Like, kindness is so cool. And I think it's making a comeback. It feels good to be kind.
Yes.
No one has PTSD from being too nice.
Yeah.
But we have it from being mean. So it's just really nice. And thank you guys for the support. Please continue to listen and watch and subscribe. We've got a YouTube channel now, so you can see our weird faces. And if you're looking for live comedy in Los Angeles, and now I'm going to be touring around the country coming up this season in spring, you can follow me at tamerkattan.com. That's TamerKattan. On Instagram, I am Tamer Kat with a K. My mom is Kity
Kattan.
Kity Kattan.
Kity.
Kity on Instagram. And thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.